Soldiers from a British squadron are surrounded at dawn by a horde of werewolves and must now withstand the most macabre waves of attacks imaginable. Today we will recap the story of the 2002 movie, Dog Soldiers. In the middle of the cold forests of Scotland, a couple is camping and enjoying the tranquility of nature. The girl gives her boyfriend a solid silver dagger as a somewhat mysterious gift. At dawn, they both hear someone unzipping the tent. The girl is grabbed by a monstrous hand and begins to be shaken violently until she is half devoured by the creature. The young man tries to reach for the silver dagger, but also suffers a swift attack. 2 hours earlier to this violent event in North Wales, a man tries to escape through the dense fog of the forest from a squad of British soldiers. He knocks out some combatants, but is soon surrendered by the rest of the squad. Then we find out that this was a test of skills. The man is a soldier, named Cooper, and according to his superior, his score was excellent. But he receives a terrible order from the captain. He is to shoot in cold blood his own squad's dog. The young man is at a loss to understand how this could be a test. Obviously, he refuses to perform this atrocity. The captain then says that the soldier has failed, and he shoots the dog in the head himself. Cooper is furious, and goes on the attack, attacking the evil captain, but he ends up being pinned down and thrown to the ground. The other soldiers are ordered to replace Private Cooper. We now move on to 4 weeks later, in the Scottish Highlands. A British Army team disembarks from a helicopter in the middle of the forest for a simulated exercise to invade enemy lines. After a few hours of walking along the river, the soldiers take a break. Cooper, that soldier from before who is part of this squad, comments to his comrades about the attack on the couple a few weeks ago. Their bodies disappeared, and the tent and personal belongings were scratched and full of blood. According to him, several such sinister cases happen in this region. Despite this, the training mission must continue, and the fighters advance further into the forest until nightfall. A new camp is set up so they can rest, lit only by the flames of the campfire, while the sergeant tells stories of his most terrible missions. A completely destroyed flying cow collapses on top of the campfire, splashing blood everywhere. The soldiers panic, shooting at the eliminated animal, but they soon calm down with the sergeant's orders. They assess the condition of the animal's body, and it appears that the wounds are teeth marks. Despite everyone's concern, the sergeant will not turn on the radio in the middle of the night because of a cow, so he decides that they will take shifts on guard until dawn. At dawn, the sergeant and his team are following the trail left by the flying cow. Along the way, they continue to find blood and the remains of the animal. In the distance, the team spots a flare in the sky of a member who has advanced to do reconnaissance. When they get there, they understand why he signaled for help. There are intestines and pieces of human parts everywhere. And the most intriguing thing is that the weapons and ammunition are intact. Then the captain appears behind the boxes, and he's even more out of his mind. Ryan has huge claw marks on his chest. And Cooper, despite his hatred for him, still makes an effort to help him. Bruce tries to radio for immediate air support, but he is not getting a signal. And to make matters worse, Captain Ryan's team radio is broken. Apparently, Ryan's Special Forces squadron was there for a secret mission, to shoot down a monster. He watched his surroundings with his night vision binoculars, as he suspected he was already being followed. Until he was taken by surprise by the creature. The team had been ambushed by a horde of those monsters. As it was already getting dark and they decide to set up a new camp, the sergeant tells them that the simulation is over, now the survival mission is real. Everyone removes the yellow tips from their guns and loads real ammunition. Ryan warns them that it won't do any good. If they want to survive, run before the monsters get to them and chop up their bodies with lots of tomato sauce. That's when the team hears a terrifying scream echoing through the forest. The sergeant orders them to form in lines of 3 to fall back. Part of the team will cover the rear and the rest will follow the sergeant into the pasture. Bruce returns alone and stands guard. Amid the sound of the wind cutting through the trees comes the creature's terrible howls. He sees that something is running through the trees, but he tries to shoot several times. His gun is jammed, the ammunition is stuck in the magazine. Bruce runs in desperation as the creature is on his tail. He runs at full speed into the closed forest and ends up being cut in half by a tree branch sharpened like a spear. A terrible and agonizing elimination. Sergeant Harry is investigating the place alone and aware that there was something surrounding him. Bruce's body is forcibly torn from the tree, and when Harry finds his blood spattered, the werewolf leaps towards him. He shoots several times at the creature and manages to hit it. But he is soon struck by the claws of another of the monsters, opening its belly and exposing its entire intestines. Cooper appears at the same moment and manages to hit a few werewolves. The sergeant screams with the terrible pain of his wound while the soldier does what he can to stop the immense bleeding. They run into the middle of the forest. Cooper fires his rifle trying to scare the werewolves that are following them. The team gathers again and continues retreating. The soldiers shoot with all the weapons they possess, trying to hit the werewolves that are extremely fast and silent. The soldiers see the headlight of a vehicle approaching in the distance on the road. This would be the only way for them to escape. One of the soldiers jumps in the middle of the road to stop the vehicle. The soldiers begin to enter the woman's car, but as she tries to start the vehicle and get out, the wheel seems to be jammed. The werewolves surround them from the outside and manage to pierce the roof. One of them sticks out his gruesome arm, trying to tear pieces out of the soldiers. The soldiers fight back with stab wounds to that evil little hand. The woman finally manages to start the car, and they manage to leave the werewolves behind, at least for the time being. The woman says that there is only one farm in that valley, and the owners are her friends, so they can go there to recover and treat the wounded. They arrive at the place under a heavy fog. No one answers the door, so Cooper goes in with another soldier to investigate the house. Everything seems tidy: dinner table set, stove with a pot of stew on, fireplace lit. Cooper hears a strange movement. As he approaches the door, a dog gives him a tremendous scare, but the dog, named Sam, is a good guy and even greets the soldier. The residents really weren't, so everyone steps in and begins to organize. Cooper takes the lead since the sergeant is badly wounded and screaming in pain. The woman says there is no phone in the cabin and the nearest town is 4 hours away. So Cooper decides that they should take the car and go there to ask for help. He leaves with Spoon to the area where the car was parked, and when they turn on the flare, they see the vehicle totally destroyed. Werewolves are everywhere. Cooper orders Spoon to remain calm and not to shoot. At his signal, the two of them run into the house. The shots hit the leaking fuel and everything goes up in smoke. The werewolves try to push the door open, sticking their arms through the gap. But with great difficulty, Cooper manages to close it and shoves his gun into the little cardboard door and machine guns everything away from the door. The dog is violently pulling at the sergeant's bandages. Of course, Captain Ryan would have shot the poor guy by now, but Private Terry throws up on his head in the moment of panic, saving the poor dog's life. Cooper needs to calm everyone's tempers, especially the captain. He has great leadership skills. He orders Terry to boil water in several pots, so they have something to drink. They put wood on the windows and cabinets blocking the doors. The werewolves are still surrounding the house, running between the trees. Even though the soldiers fire bursts of gunfire, this doesn't keep them away from the perimeter. They collect any weapons that might be useful, from medieval swords to a kitchen electric saw. With Megan's help, Cooper will seal the sergeant's wounds. They then take him upstairs in the cabin, and they begin to apply some kind of glue to the cuts on his abdomen, which makes Harry scream with so much pain. Everyone is agonized listening to that dreadful sound of suffering. The sergeant asks Cooper to put him out by hitting him on the head, because the pain is terrible. Then the soldier hits the poor guy on the head with a punch and makes him pass out. Thus, they were able to finish the job. Cooper is reluctant to believe that the creatures are werewolves, but Megan says that she has been investigating these monsters for 2 years, and before the night is over, he too will believe. She tells all the soldiers that they are facing lycanthropes, a horde of werewolves that at the time of a full moon, come out to hunt. Cooper decides to interrogate Captain Ryan, questioning what his unit was doing in that place, and the captain is totally reluctant to say. However, it is very strange that they find him all wounded and weak. And just before entering the house he was even running. Cooper wants to take the bandages off and see his wounds. Ryan pulls a gun on him, but Megan hits him with a splendid frying pan and manages to disarm him with style. As they remove the bandages, everything was healed. In other words, there is something strange going on with the captain. At that moment, all power is shut off in the house. The werewolves have destroyed the generators. According to Ryan, they can see in the dark, and this will be the soldiers' fear. Cooper orders everyone to stand down. Megan will keep an eye on Ryan, for he is certainly a threat. Spoon notices that the back door handle is moving, and another werewolf starts pounding on the front door. They are all over the place. He puts the lock back on the door, but the windows were more vulnerable. The werewolves begin to break them, and they force the soldiers to fire several bursts, using all the firepower they possess. Spoon can't load his gun and is holding the door as best he can. Cooper takes hot water from the stove and throws it in the werewolf's face. Spoon complements this with powerful pan strokes. Joe moves forward, happily firing his shotgun, until the werewolf forcibly snatches it away from him. He then throws a grenade through the window, preventing the monster from coming in to get him. Spoon tries to drag a closet to lock the door and gets punched in the face by the creature and is almost crushed by a gas cylinder. Joe has been captured through the window locks and cries out for Cooper to help him. That's when the Templar sword comes into play and Cooper rips the hand off the direwolf in one fell swoop. The creatures don't give up, trying to open the doors through every crack they can find. That's when the first werewolf accomplishes this feat. Upstairs, the dark monster slowly makes its way through the window into the sergeant's room. Cooper comes running up and tries to warn him, but he is grabbed by the feet by one of the creatures. He keeps shouting for Harry to wake up, and throws a flare, stunning the werewolf. Cooper manages to get loose and the sergeant wakes up at the same moment. The two of them together shoot the demonic thing, throwing the werewolf out the window. When it seemed that the first wave of attack had ceased, Terry mocks the ability of the creatures, and is pulled violently out the window. Megan sees the soldier being carried away by the whole horde. Well, again they put the wooden locks on the window, ensuring at least some temporary security. There are still 6 hours until sunrise, and until then, they need to find a way to stay alive after all the ammunition is almost gone. Megan watches at the window, the werewolves still waiting for the right moment for the next wave of attack. She asks if anyone knows how to hotwire cars. There's one parked in the barn, but she doesn't have the keys. Joe offers himself for the mission, but before he does, it is necessary to create a distraction strategy for the werewolves. Thus, they go to the second floor and Spoon goes down first with a rope because he will be the target of distraction. He continues shouting near the forest, lighting a flare, when the werewolf starts chasing him. This is Joe's chance to run safely into the barn. Spoon climbs the rope and makes it back into the house. However, the guys and gals, the satanic monster pulls the rope that they used to climb down, and tries to get in through the window. Spoon starts sawing the rope with his knife, while Megan shoots the camera flashes to stun the werewolf, and they manage to knock the monster out. Joe finally manages to start the vehicle. However, he sees the worst scene of his life. The werewolf feeds on Terry while he is still alive. The creature rips the young man's head off and throws it on the windshield. The soldier fights with the creature that tries to open the door of the Jeep, and ends up hitting the creature hard and drives off at full speed backwards, bursting through the barn door. But when he stops the car, he realizes that the creature was in the back seat, and he goes after him with the knife. Joe ends up destroyed by the werewolf. When the rest of the team tries to enter the vehicle, they find the werewolf brutally devouring Joe. Megan fires her pistol, forcing the creature to stay outside, giving Sergeant Harry time to close the door again. All seems lost. After all, Cooper checks the Jeep, and as last time it was all destroyed by the werewolves. This time he gives Ryan an ultimatum, threatening him to tell what he knows about the creatures. The captain also informs him, in an overbearing manner, that Sergeant Harry's unit was a decoy ready for slaughter. He knew that Cooper would find the werewolves and they would all be exterminated. Therefore, the captain would not risk his own skin to find them. The sergeant rages and punches the man in the face. That's when they lift him up. His eyes are yellow like a wolf's. Ryan is in transformation, with fangs and claws already revealing themselves. And then a huge werewolf appears from behind the table. The combo of attacks begins in earnest. Megan uses the camera flash. The sergeant hits him with a glowing stump. Cooper buries the Templar sword right in his back, and Spoon unloads the MP5 all over the room, forcing the captain to flee out the window, and once again the attack wave had shut down. The timbers are nailed down again, and the nightmare of the dawn seems to have no end. Now it makes sense why the house is empty. The family in the photo are all werewolves. The soldiers are in their house and they didn't like that at all. Megan concluded that the werewolves' behavior is like that of a pack. They are gathered in one place with food, protection, and away from the cold. And if they're not inside the house, all that's left is the barn. This is where Cooper's plan will come into play. Explode everything using the gas cylinder. Megan leaves Sam trapped in a kitchen closet to spare him from any danger. Sergeant Harry wants to stay behind and provide cover for everyone to escape. He shows them his stomach, and to our not so surprise, his wounds have completely healed. He already knows that just like the captain, he has already been contaminated, and will soon turn into a lichen. But Cooper will not leave him alone. The two are friends and honor fighters. And so the sergeant will join at least on this last mission. Spoon then punctures the fuel tank of the Jeep. They load the cylinder into the vehicle, and Cooper drives for a few meters and jumps out just before reaching the barn. With the car already inside, Spoon is trying to light the match to activate the gasoline trail left by the Jeep, but he doesn't succeed at all. Then Harry arrives with a Molotov cocktail, bursting into flames, and he throws it on the trail. The fire reaches the barn and sends the Jeep, with everything inside, flying through the air. And if you thought it was all over, just wait for this even more sinister plot twist. Megan says that she is also part of the Lichen family. She tried to join the soldiers to escape from that life, but everything went wrong, and now her instincts are screaming in her head. They are bigger than her will to protect the squad. The werewolves were not in the barn, because she let them into the cabin. She begins her transformation. Spoon lands a shot right in her head. He tries to follow his companions up the stairs but is stopped by the claws of one of the werewolves. His only way out is to lock himself inside the kitchen, but without any ammunition, he prepares to engage in hand-to-hand combat with the creatures. The huge werewolf bursts through the door and a fierce fight begins. He lands a few punches and takes a knife from the table and stabs the monster in the back. As he is thrown to the ground, he still manages to wrest a fang from the creature in his kick. Spoon is in a rage and with the knife starts to pierce the creature's head, splashing blood everywhere. But the monster remains firm and strong. The soldier decides to throw very powerful plates and bottles in the moment of desperation, and of course, it worked so well that he is held by the neck, torn apart and devoured by 2 werewolves. The dog that was standing there in his corner bravely growls as he faces one of the satanic werewolves. Cooper and Harry are escaping on the 2nd floor. The soldier throws a grenade, but only manages to destroy the staircase. The 2 werewolves are still chasing them. They lock themselves inside the bathroom. The sergeant improvises a flamethrower with aerosol in a water heater, giving the sheriff a toast on the werewolf's snout. Cooper does the most angry thing possible. He shoves a sink nail into the beast's head. The sergeant keeps shooting his flames into the hole in the door. And Cooper uses his bayonet to cut a hole in the wall and escape from the place. The 2 of them manage to get through to the other side. And they plug the hole with some suitcases and a bookcase. Only there is also a werewolf trying to get in through the bedroom door. They decide to hide inside the closet. And as they notice the horrible smell, they notice the skeletons of victims eliminated by the family. The sergeant shoots the floor and opens a space for the 2 of them to go down to the room below. They find a secret trapdoor. But Harry is not going to run anymore. He says that Cooper needed to survive to tell everyone that it was real. And he hands over the camera film as proof. Cooper goes down with Sam. And the sergeant begins his inevitable transformation. So he ruptures the gas hose on the stove, and when the werewolf pack approaches, he presses the lighter on the stove and blows the whole thing up. Meanwhile, Cooper stayed at the Lycan's body stock, with several victims hanging around like a human refrigerator. Only there was still one more werewolf alive. Captain Ryan with his sword drawn. He attacks Cooper with several punches to the face, and begins to shove the sword from his chest down the soldier's throat. Sam jumps on the werewolf and drives the demon away from his friend Cooper. The soldier finds a silver dagger. Yes, the victim's gift from back at the beginning. As he buries it in Harry's chest, the creature is stunned by the silver. And it was only to fire the last mortal shot already at dawn. Private Cooper and his faithful doggy friend Sam were the only survivors of this terrible event. Cooper revealed to the world the terror they faced, saying one sentence that summed it all up: "Werewolves ate my platoon." So what did you think of this movie? Leave it in the comments below. And if you liked the video, please like and subscribe for more movie recaps. See you next time.